Joining me now to discuss the shifting landscape of the Supreme Court is my friend and fellow pro-life activist, Marjorie Dannenfelser. Marjorie is the president of one of the most effective organizations here in Washington, D.C., the Susan B. Anthony List, and she is one of the leading advocates for the unborn in the nation. She is the author of a new book, Life is Winning, and she's here to tell us how the unborn could be winning with a new Supreme Court seat. Marjorie, welcome.
It's so good to be with you again.
Well, Marjorie, you and I have, we've been here a while. We've been in a number of battles.
Yes,
we've been fighting for the sanctity of human life. How significant is this Supreme Court vacancy, the filling of it, to the pro-life movement?
This is the fulfillment of decades of work that you and I have worked together. Everybody watching here has been a part of that. We are at the precipice of the overturn of Roe versus Wade. And this president, who could be nominating and having confirmed a third Supreme Court justice, he's so proud of that, and we should be proud of that too, means that the unraveling and the overturn of Roe versus Wade could lead to states being emboldened to allow the consensus in those states on abortion to make their way into law. Of course, there should always be a national consensus on this. There is a national consensus, but the first step right now is the unraveling of Roe and saving millions of children for decades. It is just that important, and it'll be decided in what, 41 days?
Yeah, and we know it's going to be a fight for all the reasons you just laid out. One of the issues, we're already seeing it in the newspapers and the articles yesterday, today, that is the attacking of the religious background of the nominees. And we've got a number of questions that have come in from our viewers, our values voters. And here's one of the questions. Is it lawful to judge a Supreme Court nominee by their religion?
Well, there should be no religious test. That is a time-tested principle in American democracy. The free exercise of religion, along with the prohibition to not establish a religion, are the parameters that we have. The idea that any of our Supreme Court justices would have a religious test before they were allowed to assume their role on the court is anathema to who we are as a nation, against the very founding, against the idea of why we as Americans exist from the very beginning. And we've already seen the seeds of that idea blooming and blossoming, unfortunately, and out of control like weeds in the Senate already, in confirmation battles just in this last session of the Senate. And already we've seen that thrown against Amy Coney Barrett from Dianne Feinstein. So when that comes, I think we should be ready. We should be ready to be defending our position and defending who this next Supreme Court justice is.
Yeah, it's really telling because, you know, the requirement that there be no religious test, meaning that you cannot force someone to have a particular religious view in order to hold a public office. This is really a reverse religious test that we're now seeing today, that if you have religious beliefs, you're disqualified from serving in office. And that's very telling of where the culture is. I want to move on to a couple of more questions that we've gotten from our viewers. What is the most significant character trait that our new judge should possess?
Well, I tend to think of it as that there are two really important pieces. One is that they have a sound jurisprudence, a fealty to the Constitution and the fundamentals of the Constitution. Number two, and one that has generally been ignored by many Republican presidents in the past, but not this one so far, I believe, is that there be a steel backbone, a courage, a fortitude, an ability to go against the tide that is really rushing towards them in these hearings and and honestly, you know what this is, to live in D.C. and to live in the ether that we navigate in, and to really be able to resist that pull. The dinner parties, the opinions of others, the pride, the vanity, the comfort that comes with being a Supreme Court justice, not to be underestimated. We've seen too many justices be attracted by that almost irresistible pull, and the only way to handle that is to believe in something far deeper and more transcendent.
A transcendent truth, being anchored in that transcendent truth, knowing what you believe, and standing firm for it. Other questions that have come in, and this is one already we're seeing the Democrats say, well, if you do this before the election, there's some bad things that are going to happen, and one of the things they're suggesting is packing the court. Here's the question: does it take a constitutional amendment to increase the number of Supreme Court justices?
The terrifying thing is no. It takes a majority vote in the House and the Senate to change, or actually the filibuster rule can be changed just by the Senate. That means you don't need a 2/3 vote anymore for legislation in the Senate. And then what happens is, and they've already been talking about doing this in their own documents, and that is expanding the number of Supreme Court justices that is on the court. The idea that they're not winning the game, so let's change the rules, and all they need is a majority vote in both houses and signed by the president. And then the other thing that they have, that is definitely on their docket, is expanding the number of states where senators can come from. So Puerto Rico and D.C. could have senators.
Right.
So all of those things, they are emboldened. They have steel backbone. They know exactly what they're doing, and they're ready to do it.
So this election is not only about the court. Obviously, there is time, as we've seen just in that ad that was just aired.
Right.
There's time to get a confirmation through the process all the way, and then a floor vote. And as you have been doing, I've been talking to members of the Senate. In fact, we're going to be talking to Senator Lindsey Graham a little bit later in the program. The full expectation is that this candidate will move through before the election.
Yes.
And then they'll simply try to dilute the advancements that the president has made in terms of putting constitutionalists onto these courts by expanding them.
So we got to do it all. We can't choose.
Right.
We got to do both.
You've got a presidential election. You've got senators that are running.
Yes.
We need to be voting.
It's a huge moment.
It really is.
If we didn't think it was big already,
Yeah.
it's now we had the battle of our lifetime for the presidency because of the Supreme Court.
Right.
Now we have the Supreme Court happening at the same time.
It's-
And then we have the Senate battlegrounds all happening at the same time. In our lifetime, though, I'm far younger than you.
That's right.
In our lifetime, in fighting this battle, there has not been another moment. And I know we say it every year, but the truth is it is ratcheted up every election cycle. This is mission central.
That's right. As the great philosopher Barney Fife used to say, this is bigger than the gold truck. It's big. It's big.
I knew I could count on you.
That's right. All right, here we go. What is your best piece of information on each of the top 3 SCOTUS candidates that assures us they are likely to interpret the Constitution as an originalist, a Scalia-type framework?
So the information that I am not a jurist, I am not a jurisprudential expert, but I know people that are. And what I've been reading mainly from the Federalist Society and from our friends like Kelly Shackelford and others, is on Barbara Lagoa and on Amy Coney Barrett, and honestly, the rest of the list. There is a analysis on their views on limited government, what they think about precedent, issues concerning the role of the state versus the role of the federal government, and every single one on the list where you participated in this process, I participated in this process of pulling together that list. Every single one of them, with the exception of Joan Larson, to be perfectly honest, is I think holds up under scrutiny on each of those pieces: limited government, precedent, and the role of state versus federal.
The top 3 females, the president says it's going to be a female, the top 3 being considered, you mentioned Barrett, Coney Barrett, Rushing, and Lagoa.
Right.
One of the things I look at a very surface level is they've all just gone through the confirmation process in the last 2 years.
That's a very good point.
For appellate, at the appellate level, which is a significant court. And I look at their confirmation numbers, where you look at Coney Barrett and Rushing, they were 54 votes for, 53 votes for. Then I look at Lagoa, and she was 80 votes for. In this Congress, in their Senate, I should say, if you get that many votes, there's an issue. Because a lot of conversations take place behind closed doors about what would you do about this, what would you do about that, and if she can assure that many Democrats that she would be good for the court, I'm a little concerned about that.
There's a little pause, and I think the more we know, the better. The day of stealth candidates is gone. The Harriet Miers moments where they said, "Trust me, that girl or that guy is gonna be great."
I'm
no
so
more.
grateful we didn't trust. and we rebelled.
That's right.
And we ended up with Justice Alito.
And I do think that there's some on the list that is a little bit more trust me. I don't think that Amy is one of those people.
No, I
I
don't
think that
either.
Amy is one who, in fact, she was last time a little bit. And the president very wisely decided to delay a little bit. And he said, I'm sure he said to you several times, I kind of think it's Amy's seat. He said that over the last couple of years since Kavanaugh, or since Gorsuch. And I think that he's had in his mind that, but he had some self-control and I think waiting so that she had a little bit more time under her belt and a lot more decisions under her belt. So we know so much more about her. She's very well known to them, and on just a purely political basis, the country knows her better. And her narrative is so beautiful. It's one that is easy to sell, hard to punch from the other side. And honestly, I'm looking forward to Saturday when this announcement is made because I think we're going to be happy.
It'll be here very soon.
That's right.
Marjorie Dannenfelser, thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.